Hey everybody, it's Scott Shetler back here at Extreme Performance Training Systems in Atlanta, Georgia. And I want to first say thanks to everybody who checked out my squat tips video from yesterday. Really appreciate all the great feedback that you guys have given me on the video. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a video today on some pressing exercises with the kettlebell. Now, one of the questions that I've gotten from a lot of people is, particularly when we're looking at this kind of minimalistic home-based training that we're having to do in the wake of the coronavirus and everything that's been going on with people having to either self-quarantine or be on lockdown. A lot of you have a kettlebell or two at home, and you're just kind of asking me what to do with it. And one of the questions is, my kettlebell's pretty light. How do I make some of the exercises more difficult, particularly some of the pressing exercises? So one of the things I want to look at today is I'm going to give you a few different tips, probably about 3 different tips on how to make presses more difficult with your kettlebell. So if you've got a kettlebell that feels pretty light and you feel like you could do a ton of reps, the first thing to do is that when you're doing your regular kettlebell press, which would be pressing the kettlebell out of the rack position, just standing like this, where you're just pressing the kettlebell up overhead and pulling it down, would be to slow down the tempo. All right, so if you have a kettlebell that feels pretty light, you want to press it like it's really heavy. So really focus on slowing down the tempo of the movement. Maybe take about 4 to 5 seconds to push it up, take about 4 to 5 seconds to lower it and pull it down. And one of the things that we can do is really increase the tension of the muscles that we're using when we do the press. So really squeeze the grip of the kettlebell hard. Try to almost do like a lat pull down with the weight. Really engage the lat muscle. Really just tighten everything up instead of just passively kind of pressing it and resisting the weight on the way down. So that's one way that you can make a lighter kettlebell feel heavy, is just to increase the tension and slow down the tempo as you're lifting the weight. So for instance, for the regular kettlebell press, you're gonna start here, and like I said, it's a weight that you can press up and down pretty easy, right? So what we wanna do is we wanna lock down really tight. We wanna tighten up the legs, squeeze the glutes, tighten up the abs, crush the grip on the kettlebell, and then we wanna grind the kettlebell up all the way to lockout. And then we want to fire that lat. We're going to squeeze the handle and we're going to pull the kettlebell back down into the rack position really, really tight. So by increasing the tension and increasing decreasing the tempo that we're lifting the weight, that can really have a huge impact on making a lighter kettlebell feel heavier, and you're going to get more benefit from the exercise. Now, a couple other ways to increase the difficulty of the press is to do a bottom-up press. So with a bottom-up press, we're actually going to flip the kettlebell upside down, so the mass of the kettlebell is going to be on top, and we're going to balance it with the handle. So this one can be a little challenging if you've never done it. So you may want to just get used to holding the kettlebell upside down with your elbow kind of tucked to the side at first, just to feel the balance. Then from there, we're going to use the same high tension principles. We're going to press the weight up overhead and then lower it back down. This is also a fantastic exercise for the grip and forearm, which is what a lot of my athletes really like this exercise for, particularly a lot of my grapplers who rely on grip strength for their sport. So with the bottom-up press, we want to get the kettlebell upside down. Now you can clean it and catch it, or you can just kind of lift it up into that position. But first, get used to holding the kettlebell balanced upside down before you go ahead and press it up and then pull it back down. Now, one of the things when you're doing the bottom-up variation of the press, keep your eye on the kettlebell, because if it's going to flip down, you want to get out of the way. So if you're at home, I definitely recommend having some mats below your feet, or being on a floor that you don't care if the kettlebell falls and it's not going to damage the floor. But definitely have, if you've got some interlocking mats, or just go outside. If you can go outside and do it in the yard. That way, if you drop the kettlebell, it's not going to be a big deal. But remember, keep your eye on the bell. If you start to lose it, just drop it and step away so that it doesn't land on your feet. But that's a fantastic way to increase the difficulty of the press. And I'll tell you what, a 16 kilo kettlebell like I'm using here right now feels like it weighs 100 pounds sometimes when you're doing that type of movement. Another way to increase the difficulty of the press is to do what we call a seated press. This is a favorite of a lot of the grapplers and fighters I work with, because it places a lot of stress on the torso, because you're going to sit back a little bit with your, you're going to sit down on the ground, straddle your legs. Then you're going to sit back almost into a little bit of a stomach crunch. You're going to tense up the torso, and then you're going to press the kettlebell overhead. So this we get a lot of torso activation as well. So there's a lot of benefit to this, and it's a lot harder than standing with your feet driving power through the ground. So with the seated press, what we like to do is sit down and straddle out, get the kettlebell up to the rack position, and then from here, we're gonna brace and lock down the abs, squeeze the glutes, lean back a little bit, and then we're gonna press that kettlebell up overhead. So now I'm feeling a lot of stress on the torso as I'm doing my kettlebell press. Definitely a lot harder than standing up and doing more of a ground-based military style press. Now, if you got two kettlebells, you can actually do a mill press, which is where you're gonna alternate pressing and lowering one simultaneously. And if you got two kettlebells, that's just another great variation of the seated kettlebell press, is the seated kettlebell mill press. Now, one last way you can really increase the difficulty of the press, this is one of my favorite exercises called the Satz press, named after Victor Satz, who developed this movement. Now, he did this with a barbell. Catching a barbell in the rack position after he cleaned it, he would squat all the way down and then press the weight overhead, or maybe press it off his back even. So the way to do this with the kettlebell is to clean the kettlebell to the chest, squat all the way down into a rock bottom deep squat, and then press the kettlebell overhead. And this is another great way to increase the difficulty of pressing movements with the kettlebell. So the kettlebell Satz press is gonna look like this. Clean the kettlebell up to the rack position, get it locked in nice and tight. Then we're gonna drop down to a rock bottom full squat, heels down, get nice and stable. Then from here, we're gonna brace tight, press the kettlebell up overhead, lock it out, and then bring it back down to the rack position. So that is the kettlebell Satz press. And I really like that because it brings the legs into play, makes the movement a lot harder. We work on the mobility of the hips, of the knees, a little bit of kind of static leg strength going on. So it's a way to get even more muscle activation throughout the body. So hopefully you appreciate those tips there, and then you'll be able to apply these to your home-based training to get a little bit more mileage out of your kettlebell pressing. So to recap, one is to simply increase the tension that you're doing your regular kettlebell press with. So squeeze, really lock down, crush the handle of the bell, activate the lats, tighten up the torso, the glutes, the legs, get every muscle in the body tight, and then slow down the tempo with which you're pressing. Take a few seconds, maybe 4 or 5 to push it up, maybe 4 or 5 to pull that weight back down into the rack position. The second way to increase the tension is to do, or to increase the difficulty of the press, is to do the bottom up variation. Remember, start out by just practicing holding the kettlebell upside down, getting used to that balance of the weight, the way it goes. And don't be afraid to move around if you need to. You don't have to stay stuck in place when you do it. So if the kettlebell's kind of drifting, walk with the kettlebell a little bit to make sure you always have control with it. And then once you have good control with the kettlebell balanced upside down, go ahead and press it overhead. Then again, use the lat, pull it back down all the way down to the rack, good full range of motion. But the bottom up press, definitely a great way to increase the difficulty of your pressing movements. The third way was to do the seated press, where you're sitting on the ground, legs in a straddle. You want to squeeze the glutes and brace the abs. You want to lean back just a little bit, almost like you're doing a little bit of a stomach crunch, so that we've got really good torso activation when you're doing the exercise. Then you're just going to press overhead from that seated position with the kettlebell on the rack. And again, you're going to see a lot more torso activation when you do that exercise. And the other thing is too, don't be afraid to try a bottom up variation if that seated press is really easy. Then the other thing, if you got two kettlebells, you can alternate pressing where you're pushing one up and pulling the other down. We call that a mill press, but a seated mill press is one of the favorite exercises, particularly of the grapplers and the combative athletes I train here at the EPTS gym. The last way to increase the difficulty of the press, which is one of my favorite ways, is the Satz press. And again, that involved dropping down into a full rock bottom squat, heels down, legs tight, everything static, brace, torso tight, chest up, and then pressing the kettlebell out of the rack position. So basically you're gonna do a front squat with the kettlebell. We went over the front squats actually in my squat video from yesterday. You're gonna get down there at rock bottom position, nice and tight, brace everything, press the kettlebell overhead for as many reps as you wanna do, and then stand up and make sure you switch hands to keep balance in the workout. So again, these are just about 4 different ways I've provided you to take your 1 or 2 kettlebells you have at home and get a lot more mileage out of the press by making it a little bit more difficult. Again, just a little bit of creativity, but focusing on the basics. remember, there's a lot of fluff out there in the fitness industry, and we're especially seeing that now because everybody's trying to cash in on the online thing. Everybody's a social media influencer. You don't see me very active on social media because I'm actually in here. For 22 years, I've been training people in person, so I'm not as active online as a lot of the social media experts out there and stuff, and all these people that have these supposedly huge followings of online clients and stuff. I'm actually in the gym working with people. So the information that I want to present to you is what I find works for my athletes and my clients here in the gym, and present that to you through this video series. So again, when in doubt, the basics always work. And with the press, we just have to find ways to make lighter weights feel heavy. So again, these 4 tips that I provided you today should help you weather this storm of the coronavirus in your home-based training. Hopefully you all are safe, you all are staying safe, you all are staying healthy. Remember, exercise, healthy nutrition, and good restorative sleep are still some of the best things that we can do to boost our immune system and keep ourselves in good health when we're dealing with situations like this. So be smart, train hard, stay home, and hopefully see you back here soon with another video tip for you. In the meantime, if you've got any suggestions on any topics, exercises, any Q&A, anything you'd like me to cover, feel free to send those to me either through my direct messages, or if you got my email, scott@eptsgym.com, you can get a hold of me that way. And also, if you would like specialized assistance with setting up your home-based training plan. Now, if you would like a one-time program design, or if you'd like some ongoing coaching where we get more into the nitty-gritty of training and we develop things specifically for you, maybe you've got some injuries you're working around, maybe you're an athlete training for a sport, maybe you're just looking to get the most out of your home-based fitness training program, please feel free to ask me questions or send me an email about my online coaching program. I've been coaching people online for a while now. Generally, it involves the weekly updated programs that I send to them. We base it on everything that they did in the previous week, so that we make sure that they're progressing. It also involves daily consultations with me. You can get a hold of me via text, email, whatever works for you. And we develop a program together going forward for you. I usually use some sort of cloud-based plan, like Google Docs is what I develop my programs in for my clients. So you get a new workout sent to you, customized for you every week. And also I do video analysis. If you've got any exercises that you want me to review and critique and help you fix going forward, we can do that. That's all part of it as well. So shoot me an email if you're interested with my online coaching program. If not, stay tuned. I'm going to keep sending out a bunch of content on my social media. So hopefully get another video in tomorrow. I was joking the other day with somebody. I'm going to try to get 3 or so videos out a week. 1 a day may be a little bit ambitious for me because I still am pretty busy working with people and doing some consulting and things like that. But in the meantime, if you got any questions, don't hesitate to contact me through direct message or email. Again, scott@eptsgym.com. Hopefully you're all training hard, and we'll see you again soon.